This is a guitar called the Alvarez Dana Scoop. You can see through it, which is cool. I don't know if you can see me seeing through it. There you go. See through it. All right. This guitar is fun for a couple reasons. I like a guitar with stories. This has a lot of stories. Some of them may be funny. First story is this is my oldest guitar. When I say oldest, I don't mean most vintage. The guitar I've owned the longest, and it has been stolen. I got it back, and then I sold it, and then I bought it back. Okay, so here's what happened. When I was a teenager, my grandfather passed away, and my mother inherited some money. And one of the things she did with the money is she took me to the music store and bought me an amp, a really nice, it was a big crate amp. As you guys know, I told you the story of the Marshall and the crate that involved that same inheritance money. And then she bought me this guitar. Okay, now I went into the music store and I saw this guitar and I just fell in love. Now, this guitar, as far as I know, is only famous for two things. One, Lita Ford endorsed it for a short moment. And so you can see ads of her if you Google Dana Scoop, D-A-N-A, Scoop guitar, and Lita Ford. Maybe the ad comes up on Google Images. She had the beautiful wood one, which was curly maple, and our quilted maple, solid quilted maple. And of course, for those of you old schoolers like me, there's a white one in Wayne's World 2. The guitar player in the band is playing a white one of these. They only came in a couple colors. Metallic blue, I think black, this red, a white, which was pretty rare. And then they had a couple versions where they had 3 pickups, and it gets a little weird after that. But here's what happened. I told you guys I was a product of, started playing guitar in 1989. So by the time I started playing guitar, by the time I could form a chord, play something, and try to get my parent, my mother, to basically get me another guitar, the 80s thing was kind of dead, right? It was in phase out, phase in mode, right? We still had Steve Vai did stuff. Guitar was still reigning supreme, but you also had not only grunge, but of course rap was huge. So when I was starting guitar, the first time I ever went to a music store, I told you guys I went and bought a JB player because that's what we could afford. It was a cheap guitar. What I didn't tell you was the guitar that I dreamed about that day when I walked in. The first guitar I saw that I fell in love with was a White Pearl Warlock and BC Rich, and I thought this is the guitar. And I saw the price tag and I was like, this is not the guitar. And I basically always loved the idea of BC Rich. Interesting enough, this guitar is a 1992. So I bought this in 92. In 92, there wasn't even BC Riches in the stores. Not in stores I went in, there was no kind of guitar. So I saw this guitar and I thought, what is this? And there's a reason why I love this guitar. It does not sound particularly great to me, especially after what I've done to it. And most people don't react to it in a positive way. They think it looks silly or weird or dumb, whatever you want to say. I like how it's always flat and you can just put it on the flat. That's why I don't have a strap button on it. Sometimes I'll just put it flat on the floor like this because it's funny. But I love it because it reminds me, every time I see this guitar, it reminds me of my youth. Not because I bought it when I was young, but because young me never thought about how this might break or how stupid this is, right? Like it's like trying to cross a rickety bridge, right? When you're young, you're like, wow, what could go wrong? When you're older, you're like, does this have a permit? Is this structurally sound? Who's checked this recently, right? Me now would look at this guitar and go, dumb idea. It's not going to work. But young me saw this and thought it was cool. I'm going to demonstrate why I actually thought it cool and why I bought it. So I bought this guitar, and originally it comes with Dana original stock pickups. It has a single coil here, it had a humbucker there, and it had a booster or a active system in it. As I told you guys last week, I thought that's why at the last minute I thought I'd bring this guitar. I mentioned to you that my friend bought a Nuno N2 when we were kids, and it had the stock Washburn pickup. We wanted the Bill Lawrence. We didn't know what a Bill Lawrence was. He bought a X2N and put it in his guitar, and then we thought that sounded like amazing. Sounded like Nuno Betancourt. So when I got this guitar and I got a little bit of money, I went and bought an X2N. I put a red X2N in it because I was like, oh, it matches. And also, they only had green and red in the store. So it was not like I was going to pick green. So I did that. This pickup, I only did this because this pickup is so loud that the single coil pickup, you couldn't even hear it anymore. So I ended up having to put in here, this is a fast track. So I put a fast track in the middle position. Yeah, it's weird having a middle pickup. I think they should have just made it a one pickup guitar and just made it shrederific. in the back. This guitar is 24 3/4 scale, like a Les Paul, and it has block inlays. If you don't know why this guitar exists, it exists because of an interesting time that has never existed before and has never existed since, which is, if you guys are familiar with Alvarez Guitars, they are an acoustic guitar company. They were owned by St. Louis Music Company, who also owned Crate and then eventually owned Ampeg. And in the late 80s, early 90s, they had a problem that never happened in music history before and hasn't happened since, which is electric guitars were outselling acoustic guitars. So, yep, and in the 80s and the early part of the 90s, very early 90s, more people were buying electric guitars than acoustic guitars. It never had happened before. And again, shortly after that, it's never happened again. Acoustic guitar sales now still are number one sales for volume. Most people start with an acoustic guitar. But back in the day, you couldn't convince little Philip McKnight to get an acoustic guitar. That was something that I was not even going to, because that was the thing that you get smashed at Animal House, right? That was actually a true story. That's what I thought of acoustic guitars. That a dude plays an acoustic guitar, some dude is going to grab it and smash it on you because that's just so lame. I guess maybe I saw Animal House too early. But electric guitar was the way to go. So Alvarez had to make electric guitars. It's a very long story. I actually have a video about the 5 things you don't know about the Dana Scoop. You can watch that. But it talks about how basically Dana Sutcliffe designed this guitar through an accident, and Alvarez decided to put this guitar in production. I walked into the store in 1992 and thought, this is the guitar for me. Bought the guitar, then eventually upgraded the pickups and did that. On the back, I have the hex hider. So I mentioned last week on the N4, I have the Allen wrenches that screw in the back. This one is the magnet that goes there. So very cool, does that. This is made in Korea. They're all made in Korea. There was no production. When it came out in 1992, it actually won Guitar of the Year at the NAMM show, and then it went out. It was gone. I think they only made it for 3 years. Somebody would have to Google it now. I want to say it was 91, 92, 93 were the only years it made. They might have pushed it to 95 with a couple of versions. I don't know. But obviously say it had a short-lived life. So the story that maybe is funny for you guys is I once played a gig with it, and then I came home late at night. And a lot of times, like a lot of us at late at night with a gig, I got out my 412 cabinets and all my stuff out of the back of my truck, and I put it in the garage, and I went in the house, and I went to sleep. The next day, like you do, I had a party, not like a planned party, but a friend came over, another friend came over. Next thing you know, 10 people are over, and we're all hanging out doing stuff. And at the next day, when I went out to the garage, the guitar was gone. It was there when at the party started. Somebody at the party went out the garage and took the guitar. Now, the only thing interesting about that story was only 2 people went out the garage at that party. And I was like, oh, well, pretty sure they stole it, but what am I going to do? So what I did is I took a picture I had out of it, went to Walgreens and made a bunch of copies of the picture, paid Walgreens for the pictures, glued them onto paper, put a reward, and put it in every pawn shop and music store in Tucson, Arizona. Now keep in mind, this is a red scoop with red pickups in it. And I said, hey, reward for this guitar. And then interestingly enough, the person who I thought stole it contacted me and said, hey, he found it. A friend of his stole it, and he can get it back from me. And he came back to claim the reward. And when he gave me the guitar and the case, because in the case, when he claimed the reward, I said, I said, by law, I have to report to the police who the person was. So who is the person? And he's like, I don't want to give the person's name. I go, and he goes, don't worry about the money then. I go, okay. So I made that up, by the way. So if he's never going to watch this, but if he does, that was made up. So here's why the story's funny. Then, of course, I got the guitar back, which was very cool. And then many years later, a few years later, as I told you, I joined the Army and sold everything I had. So I sold this guitar. And then when I got out of the Army, a few years under my belt, school's done, I'm working a job. There's this thing called eBay. I'm on eBay one night looking at guitars. Holy crap, red scoop, red pickups, same serial number. This is my guitar. And I bought the guitar. So I got the guitar back. So I don't play it. In fact, I was scared to death. In fact, when I picked it out today to play it, the switch wasn't working. So I had to go clean it real quick and check a few things. And it was caked in dust. I feel bad. Like I told you earlier, if I don't play it, I don't keep it. But this guitar, as you can see, I'm not going to get this back. They hold almost no value. People try to get anywhere between $700 to $1,000 for them. if I was, I personally think they're worth about $400, maybe $5, but that's what I think it's worth. I'm not going to sell mine, so maybe it's worth whatever somebody wants to pay for it. Right now, I'm just going to run through my Princeton. I'm going to run an overdrive. I'm going to place some of the stuff for you, if you don't mind. And then, but really, first, I want to show you this funny thing that I'll tell you in a second. Hold on. As you can imagine, it has no neck pickup. So to me on the clean channel, the best sound is the both pickups engaged. This is the middle and the neck. I have the bridge against the body, even though it's recessed. It's only lightly recessed, so I just have it against the body. So let's go ahead and I'll just play for a few minutes, and then I'll show you some stuff. Here we go. Okay, now let's go to the middle pickup, which of course is the closest to the neck, so we're gonna call it the neck pickup. And of course that bridge pickup, which is going to be a little aggressive. All right, so I'm going to go to overdrive, and I'm going to show you something that's so lame that I'm embarrassed to show you, but it's true. When I had this guitar, I had hair. But I thought it was cool because I would do cool things like use the scoop out right here to make harmonics. So I would play and I would do this right here. Okay, so let's go to the middle, which is the neck pickup. Okay, now this is the last one. This is the bridge, but with no delay. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. So differently, I thought it was cool, man. You know, when you were young, looking for a gimmick, I thought that was going to be my thing. I'd hit an E chord, and then I'd hit the harmonics in that scoop hole. No one cared. So that was it. By the time I had that guitar, that music was over, and that's when I switched to bass. I think I've told that story. I won't bore you guys with old football story, so to speak. But so that is a Dana scoop with the X2N pickup in it. Well, so you guys know, I have only seen one, and I could say two to be safe, but I've only seen one where it got damaged, you know, where that cutaway is. The rest are not there. The rest are pretty bulletproof. Just for the record, this is a maple neck with a rosewood fretboard. It does have a version with a maple fretboard, and the bodies are alder, except for the one that, like I said, if you see the one with Lita Ford, hers is a solid piece of curly maple. I think it's two pieces, but it might be one solid piece of curly maple, or sorry, quilted maple. But like I said, this is just alder. This is just a licensed Floyd Rose. It's not a real one. And that's it. And it's got a little bolt system there. It was supposed to improve the sustain, having this cutaway, and give you better access. What I've learned is this little bump right here pretty much stops you from having great access. In fact, the handshake on this it's all right. Like the SG is better, actually. So that's not that awesome. And the sustain, I don't notice it. But then again, I did gut their electronics and throw an X2 in it to be super metal. So that is a Alvarez Dana scoop with a little story about why they did that and how that all happened for them. And then luckily for Alvarez, just a couple short years after producing the guitar, the acoustic market went back to normal, and it's been normal ever since. Acoustic guitars outsell electric guitars, other than just that 80s time when everybody wanted to be a rock star. Everybody else, it's just where it works. That's the way it works. Okay, so if you guys have any comments about the guitar, let me know in the comments section. As always, thank you all for your time. Till the next time, know your gear.